Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here. On this Monday, April 8th, we have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link, that is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show, talk about an article that was released more on the Stefon Diggs news, some drama in week one of the Bills matchup with the Jets between Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs, a little altercation there, so I'll touch upon that here in the first segment. Then in the second segment, I'll talk about a couple of things with the Dallas Cowboys. I saw an article last night trying to look for some topics to discuss for today, an article about Micah Parsons, as well as something that I wanted to talk about a couple weeks ago. It had to do with something that Dalton Schultz said of the Houston Texans, what he said about the Cowboys. So I wanted to get into a couple of those things in the next topic of the show. Then in the third part of the show, we're going to talk about a pair of running backs, Saquon Barkley and Dalvin Cook. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about Marquez Valdez-Scantling and him commenting on Aaron Rodgers, coming to the defense of Aaron Rodgers on him being called a diva. So we'll get into that as well. So that's the rundown. I hope everybody had a good weekend and enjoyed the NCAA tournaments for both men's and women's. The women's tournament ended yesterday. You had South Carolina defeating Iowa, and then tonight you have the men's UConn against Purdue, which should be a good game as well. So, and yeah, let's and hopefully the other thing too, hopefully the hats, they don't come falling down on me like they did on Friday, because that whole thing was just crazy that happened. But I did clean up the mess after the show, got everything back on the shelf here, so hopefully it doesn't happen again. But cross your fingers, you never know. So let's get into this topic now, discussing Allen and Diggs. So, like I said, this is an article that came out, a couple of articles came out discussing this. I did look at the one from The Athletic. So basically talks about what happened between the two players. So I guess Diggs was getting, having a, tirade on the sidelines or something like that. And Josh Allen snapped at him. So Allen supposedly said, according to, so this is from, actually no, this isn't from the, well, yeah, it's from The Athletic, but article I took from NBCSports.com. So Tim Graham, who covers the Bills for TheAthletic.com, mentioned on his podcast an incident between Allen and Diggs after the season opening loss to the Jets. And, of course, this is when Aaron Rodgers got hurt, so Zach Wilson played most of this game, well, pretty much the whole game. Diggs approached Allen in the locker room, and Allen didn't react well to whatever Diggs said. I didn't know what Diggs said to him, but Josh Allen snapped at him. He said, "It's one bleeping game," and kind of motioned like, "I'm not talking to you here." And Diggs walked away, and Josh sat there. So that was just one incident that happened during the year. And you kind of understand that. And emotions are running high, because also the other thing is the fact that Josh Allen in that game threw 3 interceptions. Did not have his best game. And the Bills, they had a chance to win this game. Should have won the game. But ultimately lost. Game went to overtime. And, of course, Xavier Gibson runs back the punt return, and the Bills ended up losing the game. But this is something, again, Diggs being traded, this is something that we've been going down this path for a while. And there was always speculation on, is Diggs going to be traded? Is he not going to be traded? And it hasn't happened. But now it finally has. And this is just one incident where, we were really getting towards that point where Diggs is no longer going to be a Buffalo Bill. And I talk about this a lot. Received a lot of criticism after the catch that he dropped, the pass that he dropped in the divisional round against the Chiefs, where Josh Allen threw that ball up into the stratosphere, and Diggs could have came down with it, and that would have changed the complexion of the entire game. But that didn't happen. Well, then again, they did get down the field, but Tyler Bass ends up missing the field goal, and the Bills end up losing. But who knows? Maybe things go differently if Diggs makes that catch. So, it's just one. There definitely were other instances that we maybe don't know about. And again, you understand what Josh Allen's saying too. I mean, like I said, it has a lot to do with frustration because you're coming off of a game where you threw 3 interceptions. But also at that point, it is just one game. But that game turned out to be very important because the Bills, they win that game. Maybe they don't have to rattle off 6 straight to get into the playoffs. Or 5 straight. But it's gonna be interesting to see what ends up happening on both sides here. Because now the Bills, they got to figure something out with the draft. They're going to have to draft receivers. That's a need because you can't go into the season with this wide receiver core the way it is. Now, they did add Curtis Samuel. You still have Khalil Shakir. They also did, I didn't know, I forgot about this. And my camera just, because I hit the wire with my camera. All right, hold on one second. See, if I even touch what my camera is plugged into, then that happens. So, but they also did bring in Matt Collins as well. But this is not a game changer. But, for depth, I do like the Curtis Samuel move. And Khalil Shakir was productive for them down the stretch. So, you got to add to that. And there's a lot of receivers in this draft. Now, they're not going to get the top 4 receivers. No, that's not going to happen. But there's enough receivers in this draft where they can draft one late. And they're probably going to have to draft a couple. So, it's going to be a big year for Josh Allen. And I don't think the Bills are going to be awful without Diggs. I don't think they're going to be a bad team. But there could be some growing pains without him. And again, if you go and look at his stats down the stretch, he didn't have a 100-yard game. For pretty much the whole second half of the year. The first half of the season, he got off to a great start, but then after that, didn't really do much in a lot of games. But just the presence of Diggs on the field makes a difference. So with him not being there, now it's, who's going to step up? Again, the other thing too is they got a couple of good tight ends. Like I said, James Cook had a breakout season. So it's not like Josh Allen doesn't have anything. But you just lost Stefon Diggs, which is going to make a difference. Even if he wasn't putting up the same numbers that he was when, the previous 3 seasons that he was with the Bills. But I think Josh Allen will figure it out. Again, might be growing pains, but I don't expect the Bills to be this horrendous team now. They had to make a lot of cuts too. getting rid of guys on defense. They cut Mitch Morse to center. Changes were made. And we'll see how they address some of those needs in the draft. Only time will tell. But just thought it was interesting that this was an incident between Josh Allen and Diggs. But again, this is something that definitely has been going on for a while. And like I said, these last couple of years, all we've been hearing is, oh, this could be, Diggs might be traded. Look at what he posted on social media. And then it hasn't happened. Now it finally has happened. And you got Vikings fans coming out and saying too, like, yeah, this was the same thing in Minnesota. He wanted out of Minnesota. So the Vikings traded him. They ended up using the pick that they got for him for Justin Jefferson. So that worked out well for them. Now they got to make sure that they re-sign him. They don't want to lose him. But it seems to be a common theme with Diggs. And Josh Allen, I think, just a lot of things in that moment led to him snapping. It could have just been from the game, but also maybe it's just I'm tired of this happening. So, again, it's all speculation there, but like I said, you're coming off of a 3-interception game. You lose the way you did. Yeah, maybe it is just from the game, but it also could just be from having to deal with Diggs these last couple of seasons, and you just had enough of it at that point. And yeah, you could even say he kind of got phased out of the offense towards the end of the year. Just, again, you look at the stats. I mean, I've gone through them on previous shows. I'm not going to go through them again, but yeah, had a couple of games where he had like 20 receiving yards. And people could say, yeah, he declined. And maybe he is declining. But I still think Diggs has some good football left in him. So we'll see how he is with the Texans. But you're going now to a team where Stroud's not going to just be thrown to you. There's other weapons in that offense. You got Nico Collins, who had a breakout season. Tank Dell was playing well before he got hurt. Dalton Schultz, him and C.J. Stroud really developed a nice rapport there. There's a lot of mouths to feed on that offense. So, if Diggs doesn't get the ball, are we going to see more complaining? Probably. But you're going to a team where he's going to get a lot of targets. But don't think you're going to be the only guy that is going to get the ball. Because these other guys here can make plays too. So, again, I love that trade for the Texans. I'm really excited for them. I think they're going to have a really good year. On both sides of the ball, made some great moves. And we still didn't even see what they did in the draft. Because if they knock this draft out of the park, man, I mean, the sky's the limit for what they can do. And I said that last week. Now, again, I'm not going to, I don't know if I did mention this. We did talk about it in the production meeting. Are they the best team in the AFC? I'm still not going to say they are. I can't do it. Because you still got the Kansas City Chiefs. And with what the Chiefs were able to do last year, with the struggles that they dealt with on offense, and despite all that, they still made it to the Super Bowl and won it. You got to dethrone them. So, but the Texans are up there. The Texans are rising up. So, and the Bills kind of going down a little bit. So, again, we'll see how both teams address the draft. I think right now on paper, you like the Texans better than the Bills. But the Bills still have Josh Allen. So, we'll see how he is without Diggs. Again, we saw that first couple of years he was in the league, but, he's a different quarterback than he was when he first started. So that doesn't mean he's going to revert back to that. But, it's possible. He was turning the ball over a lot with Diggs. So, we'll just have to wait and see. But let me know what you guys think about the little altercation that these two supposedly had after the Week 1 loss to the Jets. Again, it could be a couple different things. Whether it was just, hey, you're coming off of a bad game where you threw 3 interceptions. You just lost it there. Or was it more just, you know what, you're really starting to get on my nerves? I mean, I would like to believe that it's more of just, hey, I'm coming off of a really bad game. Just get out of my face. But, again, who knows? But let me know what you guys think about the Week 1 altercation between these two players. So, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about a couple of things with the Cowboys. So, one of them is Micah Parsons. Some people in the organization are getting a little irritated with him. And also something with Dalton Schultz that I wanted to touch upon too, that I've been meaning to. An article that came out like a few weeks ago, about a month ago, him talking about the Cowboys and their locker room dynamics, as I have the show segment titled here. So that is what we are going to get into when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, talk about a couple of things with the Cowboys, America's team, as many people say, although I may not necessarily agree with that. Talk about a couple of things regarding them. One thing with Micah Parsons and another thing with Dalton Schultz, commenting on the, like I said before, the break, the locker room dynamics. So, first thing with Micah Parsons. Now, Micah Parsons is obviously one of the best defensive players in the NFL. Arguably, you can make the case that he is the best defensive player in the NFL, although you probably would name a couple of guys over him, maybe a little bit more. TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, but regardless, he is one of the top defensive players in the league. And I saw a couple of articles talking about there possibly being people within the organization that just kind of have had enough of him. Their patience with him or whatever is wearing thin. At least that's what it says in the articles. Yeah. Has worn thin on the Dallas Cowboys organization, according to, again, some reports. So, despite his accomplishments on the field, reports suggest that Parsons' behavior has strained relationships within the Cowboys organization. Now, they talk about Shan Sheriff, I hope that's how I pronounce it, of 105.3 The Fan, reported that multiple individuals within the franchise have expressed concerns about Parsons' behavior, indicating that his presence may not be universally welcomed. Now, I kind of want to look at the exact quote because I do have the article I have. This is from on3.com, which I've never heard of, but there were other articles that touched upon this subject. So, this is the quote from Sheriff of the Fan, and the quote is, "I've heard from way too many people this offseason. I'm talking about at least 4 different people have told me that Micah has worn thin there. I don't know how much is true and how much it actually hurts his reputation. I don't know whether this is the behavior of a typical superstar. I don't know how damaging it is, but all I do know is this. I've heard from way too many people that if Micah Parsons was out of there, there would be a decent amount of people inside the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco smiling or breathing a sigh of relief." Now, they also do bring up a former receiver saying that Micah Parsons is the most selfish player on the Cowboys because he doesn't want to play linebacker and he only wants to be great for Micah, in quotes. So I thought that was interesting. But I guess maybe also you could look at the fact that Micah Parsons has a podcast too where he's talking about things every week during the season. And we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers a little later. But Aaron Rodgers, even with him getting hurt, was making weekly appearances on the Pat McAfee show, and that was rubbing people the wrong way. And when you have Micah Parsons with his platform every week talking about, the Cowboys and football in general, it might rub some people the wrong way. So that could create a distraction. Now, again, I think players have the right to be able to express themselves, but at the same time, there are some people that look at it and say, this is a little bit of a distraction. Like, focus in on what we got going on here, not extracurricular stuff. But and people have criticisms of Micah Parsons on the field as well. There's some games where he disappears and doesn't make an impact. Did he make an impact in the playoff game against the Packers? I'd have to go look back at the stats, but his individual stats. But you look at the game, and the Cowboys got blown out. Micah Parsons did not take over that game at all. Micah Parsons can take over games, but that was one game where he did not. And the defense just, leaving guys wide open. But I'm not going to define him on that one game. But there are some games where he does disappear in big moments. And I know people have criticized him for that. So, and I guess maybe just with the podcast and just, I guess, how he is. I don't know how he is in the locker room. You might have guys come out and say he's a great teammate, he's a leader, things like that. There's 2 sides to every story. And again, we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers a little later. But there's 2 sides to every story. So you're going to have some people that are going to criticize him, and then you're going to have others that are going to say he's great. And again, there's people within the organization. Well, who within the organization has a problem with Micah Parsons where he's wearing thin on them? Who is that? Like, it could, for all we know, it could be, someone on the training staff. Like, I don't know. Is it Jerry Jones? I don't think he's wearing thin on Jerry Jones. Who is it? That's why, you see an article like that, and you see, well, there's some people with, and there's articles that come out, not just with this, but with other players as well, where, some people within the organization have had enough of, player X. Who? So, I don't think it's the heavy hitters. I don't think it's Jerry Jones. I don't think it's Mike McCarthy. Is it Dak? I don't think it's Dak. Maybe it's Dak because Dak's looking to get paid and Micah Parsons could get in the way of that because Micah Parsons is going to have to get paid at some point. So, I really don't think this is that big of a deal. But I can understand if there are people within the organization that have a problem with him because, again, he has a platform. He talks about the team every week. But I don't know. But then I also want to get into the Dalton Schultz stuff quickly. So this was something that came out around the time he signed that extension with the Texans, and I was meaning to cover it, so I figured, all right, I'll talk about a couple of Cowboy things on the show here. So Dalton Schultz, so this was at the beginning of March, so this was a month ago, and this is an article on Fox Sports. So Dalton Schultz says playing for the Cowboys was like being in a zoo. So this is what he said. The focus is just football, you know what I mean? When asked what it's like, playing with the Texans. I'm going back and telling some people about being around the Cowboys practice facility and game day and describing some of the interactions and stuff that you see on a day-to-day basis. And it surprises a lot of people. They're like, holy crap, that actually happens at a practice facility? You think it's normal, and then you come to a place like Houston. So he was asked to elaborate. Schultz shared his thoughts. So this is another quote that he said in the article. There are people literally going on tours while you're lifting in the weight room, and they've got like a one-way mirror for people to look at. It's a zoo. There are people tapping on the glass trying to get people's attention as they're doing power cleans or whatnot. So so this is while they're training and you got people touring the facility. So I mean, when you got people tapping on the glass, it's kind of like being at a zoo, basically, when you have that. So, but then, even after Schultz called the Cowboys culture different, he didn't criticize his former team. That's the brand that they've built. That's what Jerry Jones likes. That's the way they run things, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you don't realize how many eyeballs and how much that can maybe distract from stuff just in a locker room, being in the facility until you go somewhere else. So I thought he was going to go into more detail. Well, he did go into more detail, but he didn't really full-on criticize them. But I thought it was going to be something else. But he did talk about Houston, said this is also a really well-run organization. I think that was one of the things that kind of scared me about leaving Dallas the most. I wasn't sure what another organization would kind of feel like. So I guess it's kind of just... I thought it was going to be something different when looking at it, because I thought he was really going to say, the team just kind of thinks that because they're the Cowboys, they are a part of that history of winning all the championships. But it was kind of just more of the Cowboys are more than just a football team. Like you said, that's the brand. And that's why you have, like you said, they're training and all of a sudden you got all these people touring while they're working out. And it's like, what's going on? But that's the Cowboys for you. But I thought it was going to be... But this was something he said a while ago. Like I said, this was about a month ago. But it's... but the Cowboys got a lot of things they're going to have to address. We'll see how the 2024 season goes, because this could be it for Mike McCarthy. And whether or not they're going to pay Dak, that remains to be seen, because I talked about it. $60 million a year. I don't think Dak is worth that kind of money, but maybe another team is willing to give him that. And we talked about Micah Parsons. He's going to be looking for a new contract. CeeDee Lamb as well. I was looking at an article last night of some of the wide receivers that are going to be looking to get paid. That could be, probably not going to hit the free agent market, some of them. But they're big names. Justin Jefferson's looking to get paid. CeeDee Lamb is looking to get paid of the Cowboys. Jalen Waddle. Jamar Chase, his new contract. Big names. Brandon Ayuk. A lot of big names out there. Those names could be moved. I talked about it on Friday. Tom Brady predicting Stefon Diggs being traded. Kind of. Not really. And him saying Tyreek Hill left Mahomes and Devontae Adams left Aaron Rodgers. Those are big names. And we could see the big names that I just mentioned. Some of them could be moved. So, but Cowboys, they're three big guys. Quarterback, wide receiver, and linebacker. those guys are going to be looking to get paid. And like I've been saying, you might not be able to keep everybody. And maybe it's the quarterback that ends up going. But we'll keep an eye on that. So, but let me know what you guys think about a couple of things we talked about. Let me know in the comments. So before we go into break, just want to remind you guys, once again, tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So the good thing is, at this point on Friday, the hats fell on me. And that has not happened yet. So we're doing good. We're doing good. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we will talk about a couple of running backs, Saquon Barkley and Dalvin Cook. We'll get into them, and that'll be the third part of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about a pair of running backs, Saquon Barkley and Dalvin Cook. So Saquon Barkley's bright future and Dalvin Cook's uncertain path, as I have it labeled here for the show segment. So with Saquon Barkley, so there's an article about Paris Campbell, who also used to play for the Giants for at least one season, and that was in 2023. He predicts Saquon Barkley will excel in Philadelphia. Campbell believes Barkley can become the best running back in the NFL with the Eagles' offensive line. Barkley's potential in Philly seen as a result of the team's offensive strategy, including Jalen Hurts' ability. So him joining the Eagles' offense, I mean, they got a star-studded offense. You got the offensive line. No Jason Kelce anymore, which hurts. But you still got Lane Johnson there. And how many of you guys, if you're watching this, saw Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson at WrestleMania? I didn't watch it. I did see a couple of clips of it, but yeah, they both made an appearance there. Jason Kelce living it up after retiring. But you got Jalen Hurts, you got A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith. They got a star-studded offense. And adding Saquon Barkley to that, he should do very well with the Eagles. Barkley's career with the Giants was marked by ups and downs, including injuries and just the team not being very good. Now, right now, I think most of us would say that Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in the NFL, and he's in a great spot with the 49ers. And I think Barkley's still got some good mileage left on him. You could still get a couple of good years out of him. The problem is, yeah, he's gotten hurt. You know, there was only really 2 years where he was healthy. Every other year, he's been hurt. And 2020 barely played. He played in one full game and then got hurt the next week against the Bears, tore his ACL, unfortunately. Campbell's optimistic about his own role in the Eagles' offense under Nick Sirianni, and whom he has familiarity with. Oh, yeah, that's right, because they were both with the Colts. Campbell aims to carve out a role himself in the Eagles' wide receiver room, confident in his abilities. To be honest, I don't really see it. I don't really see him having a huge role with them. Now, again, he's there for depth because, look, you got A.J. Brown, you got Devontae Smith, and they also signed Devontae Parker. So, yeah, you're kind of like that fifth or sixth guy, fourth guy maybe. But you also got to make the team. Maybe he could be someone that's cut after the preseason. So he's going to have to carve out a role. He's going to have a good preseason. But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe the Eagles are like, you're going to be on this team regardless. I have no idea. But with Saquon, though, Saquon, if he's healthy, he should, and I always say if he's healthy, he should have a very good year with the Eagles. And the Eagles, they didn't run the ball as great as they did the previous year when they went to the Super Bowl. And I think now, with the coordinator changes, they should be better. I think that collapse, I honestly, I don't know what happened. I still can't wrap my head around that collapse that they had after starting off 10-1. And I was saying it, people on TV were saying it, all across the league, that they still hadn't played their good football yet, despite being 10-1. But then they played the 49ers, and the 49ers really just brought it to them. And that just changed the complexion on the season, because then the Eagles really just did not play well down the stretch, and then ultimately lost to the Buccaneers in the playoffs. So I think with the coordinator changes, I think the offseason that they had, bringing in guys on both sides of the ball, and you know, the coordinator changes, they should be better in 2024. And I think Saquon Barkley is going to be a big part of that. Now, right now, who would you take? Would you take Saquon Barkley, or would you take DeAndre Swift? Because DeAndre Swift, I thought, did a nice job. I guess you probably take Barkley. But I think the Eagles got to get back to how they ran the football in 2022. Because if they can get back to that with Saquon Barkley, this team is a Super Bowl contender. That just adds to it. And I think, you know, on the defensive side of the ball, that has to improve because the defense was horrendous down the stretch. But if you can get back to how you ran the football in 2022, like I said, put the Eagles in the Super Bowl contender category. Which I think, I mean, depending on how you do it, if you want to say overall or just in one conference. Like from the NFC side, I look at them as, you know, top 5 team. Top 3, maybe. Because, yeah, you got the 49ers. I mean, again, the Cowboys, they really didn't add this offseason. I feel like the Eagles have gotten better. So you're going to have those 2 teams. Who else am I missing? I mean, I would rank them over every team in the NFC South. You got the Falcons, though, with Kirk Cousins, so they're going to be better. But I still like the Cowboys and the Eagles over them. Well, no, but then you got the NFC North. You got the Packers and you got the Lions. I'd probably rank the Rams under those teams, especially with them losing Aaron Donald. So, yeah, I mean, you definitely put the Lions in the top 3. But then, yeah, you got the Packers. So that would probably be my top 5. You got both teams from the NFC East. You got the 49ers. And then you also have the Packers and the Lions. I think right now that is probably your top 5. And then the Falcons are like on the cusp. That's probably how I see it. So, but like I said, if the Eagles can get back to the 2022 Eagles, you put them in your top 3. I think. But we'll see. And I expect Barkley to do well. When he comes back and plays the Giants, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt to see that, especially because he's with a rival. But I don't know. Maybe when I was younger, I would have been very bitter. I'm not bitter over it. Saquon leaving the Giants, that was probably the best thing for him. Because the way the Giants are right now, why would he have wanted to stay with them? Again, wish he would have went to the Texans, but going to the Eagles, I think they'll bounce back. They have too much talent on this team that they should be able to bounce back. But who knows? And if they don't, well, then Nick Sirianni's going to be out of a job. Because there were people calling for his job, and he's coming off of making a Super Bowl, making the playoffs. The previous season, before the Super Bowl, I mean, they did lose to the Bucs. They have a Super Bowl appearance sandwiched by 2 horrendous playoff losses to the Buccaneers. One with Tom Brady and one with Baker Mayfield. But he's turned it around. He was a part of the turnaround. But could also just be, he's got a lot of talent around him. Had good coordinators. Because once Shane Steichen left and Jonathan Gannon left, things changed. So it wasn't good in 2023, but now they changed coordinators, they added on defense, they got Barkley on offense. Let's see what they do in 2024. But I expect Saquon Barkley to do well. Paris Campbell thinks he's going to have a role on the team. Yeah, he might have a little bit of a role if an injury happens, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really see him doing that much. But I could be wrong. Maybe that's also because with the Giants, he really didn't do anything. So, and I actually did like the move when the Giants signed him, but maybe it just wasn't a good fit. So now let's get into the other running back stuff. Dalvin Cook. So he's still not on the team, but he did come out and he expressed confidence that he's still got some left in the tank. In his abilities, he's got fresh legs. He emphasized his resume and self-belief, stating, "I'm still Dalvin Cook. I'm still that guy." But here's the thing. He's coming off of a year with the Jets where it just was not good at all. And he was brought in as an insurance policy to Breece Hall, and Breece Hall was fine from the Week 1 game against the Bills. And Dalvin Cook just, really never got into a rhythm with the Jets, and ended up getting released, and he went to the Ravens. He had that one big run for like 20 yards against the Texans in the playoff game, but other than that, did not do anything with the Ravens either. And Dalvin Cook, you kind of see the decline a little bit with him. I mean, I thought in 2022 he still had a good year, but yeah, you did kind of see the explosiveness, some of that. It just wasn't the same. But with the Jets, it's like he fell off a cliff. So right now he remains unsigned. And you look across the league at all the moves that were made. I mean, Derrick Henry got signed, Saquon got signed, Tony Pollard got signed, DeAndre Swift, Austin Eckler, even Antonio Gibson of the Commanders. He went to the Patriots. So you see all these running backs getting signed, and Dalvin Cook is still sitting out there. And maybe if somebody gets hurt, he gets picked up. I mean, look what happened with Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, the last couple of years with the Buccaneers, he was pretty good. And then he was unsigned. The Bills picked him up. They signed him to the practice squad. Played a little bit, but not that much. And then the Bills, they let him go. So who knows if Leonard Fournette's going to get another shot. Now Dalvin Cook, the way he played with the Jets, teams are just, it doesn't seem like teams are that interested. But again, if someone gets hurt, his name could be called upon. And that's definitely going to happen. You're going to see guys get hurt, unfortunately. You know, I could sit up here and say, well, I hope nobody gets hurt. Hopefully it doesn't happen. Guys are going to get hurt. That's a guarantee. And especially now with the NFL having games being played on Wednesday, and you got Friday games now, and before you know it, we're going to have more added. We're going to have more regular season games. That's just going to continue. But that's a separate topic. Dalvin Cook, at some point, he will be signed. Whether that's to the practice squad or the active roster, he's going to get signed. But that doesn't mean he's going to make an impact. It just means, hey, we got an injury. We could use you as an insurance policy. But, yeah, I mean, he did not have a good year with the Jets. Like I said, he fell off a cliff. But the Jets the offensive line was not good. And there's other factors into his time with the Jets, too. You can't just say it's only on Dalvin Cook. The offensive line for the Jets was not good. And he was brought in to be paired up with Aaron Rodgers, not with Zach Wilson. So you also got to look at it from that perspective, too. But I get it, though. He has started to decline. It's just, then he got to the Jets, and it was like, you barely recognized him. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he'll get signed. But, well, I said I think he would get signed, but I could be wrong. Maybe he might not get another shot. I think he will, but again, who knows? But with that being said, now we're going to take our final break of the show, and when we come back, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, we're going to talk about, in the final segment, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, him coming to the defense of Aaron Rodgers, and that will be the final part of the show. I'll give you my opinion on it, and that will wrap it all up for today. So, for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about Marquez Valdes-Scantling, his comments on Aaron Rodgers, defending Aaron Rodgers, with people calling him a diva. So one of the things he did say is he's one of the greatest teammates you'll ever find. He cares more about his teammates than the game of football. People think he's a diva, but that's furthest from the truth. So that is high praise from Valdes-Scantling. And yeah, so basically, he's defending Rodgers over the perception of being a diva or self-centered, which many people say that. He highlights Rodgers' strong rapport with younger teammates during his brief tenure with the Jets. Valdes-Scantling attributes Rodgers' ability to build strong bonds to genuine care and advocacy for mental health, both on and off the field. Despite Rodgers' public persona, Valdes-Scantling asserts that Rodgers has taught him valuable lessons on and off the field, including mental health awareness. MVS also acknowledges the significant impact Rodgers has had on his career, citing his statistical success during their time together with the Packers. And Valdes-Scantling has played with two first-ballot Hall of Famers, with Aaron Rodgers first, and then with Patrick Mahomes, and now we'll see where he ends up. Apparently the Chargers have interest in him, from something I saw last night. But regardless of that, yeah, with Rodgers in the public eye, many people have opinions on him, that he's selfish, that he's a diva. And is that true? Kind of. But again, like I was saying about the Josh Allen, Stefon Diggs story, and even the stuff with Micah Parsons as well, there's two sides to every story. You're going to have teammates that come out and say Aaron Rodgers is the greatest, one of the best teammates you could possibly have. And then you have guys like Greg Jennings, who has criticized Rodgers as well. And he came out and he talked about some stuff that happened while he was in Green Bay. So, yeah, you're going to have two sides conflicting each other. But I think, yeah, when you saw when Rodgers first got to the Jets, he was saying all the right things and, trying to, get to know his new teammates. And it just seemed like things were going well. Although then you hear once he got hurt and Zach Wilson was trying to communicate with him, he wasn't getting through to him. So then you also hear about that. So, like I said, two sides to every story. But I think for MVS, his relationship with Rodgers, they seem to have a good relationship. And Rodgers seemed to really, be there for him and teach him a lot, again, about mental health. And mental health is a serious thing. And, Rodgers was there, somebody to, again, be there for MVS. And like MVS said, he praises him for, being there for him. And, yeah, that's being a good teammate. But then, of course, like I said, you got people out there that just do not feel the same way with Rodgers. And, yeah, with Aaron Rodgers, he makes news. He makes news on and off the football field. Because, again, this offseason, we heard some things that, maybe he was a possible candidate for vice president, to be a vice president pick. And I heard that coming home on the radio, and I was laughing because I just could not believe that was a thing. And just the scenarios of if he got sworn into office, and the Jets were in the AFC Championship game, would he be able to play? The whole thing was just so funny. Now, he is not going to be running for vice president, but it just that whole thing was just so funny. But now with that out of the way, you can focus on football. And Rodgers did come out and say that he's trying to play, hopefully, if he stays healthy, for 4 more years. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to do that, especially when you're coming off of a significant injury like he did with the Achilles, and at his advanced age of 40. Tom Brady was able to do it, but Tom Brady really never got hurt. Tom Brady tore his ACL in 2008, but that was from someone driving themselves into his leg. But other than that, yeah, Brady had a finger injury one year. I think it was 2017? Didn't he like cut his finger? I don't remember. He cut his finger on like someone's helmet. Yeah, I mean, he's had a couple of nagging injuries throughout the year, but as everybody does. But he was still able to play. But he really never suffered any significant injuries after what happened in 2008. With Rodgers, broken collarbones and, again, now this injury. He's had some bad injuries. But this one happens when he's 39, 40 years old. And how is he going to bounce back from it? Now, like I said, I'm trying to be optimistic about the Jets. I'm not a Jet fan. But I want to see Aaron Rodgers go out there and play well, at least for 1 more year. I don't want him to go out like that. But with this topic here, yeah, I mean, he goes on the McAfee show, he goes on all these different podcasts, and, a lot of the things that he's said in the past, it's just people have had enough of him. Because it's all just drama. And, yeah, the Jets were taking a huge gamble trading for him. Because you're bringing a lot of that drama in Green Bay. Now you're kind of bringing that to your organization. And, yeah, it hasn't been great. In the beginning it was great, but then once he got hurt, it's just, things have just kind of spiraled out of control. And they're looking to have a bounce-back season. And I like the moves that they've made this offseason. I think their impactful moves. Bringing in Tyron Smith, who's still a good left tackle. You're hoping Mike Williams, once he recovers fully from his ACL injury, that he's going to be a productive receiver for you. You just traded for Hassan Reddick. The Jets, on paper, right now, you could make the case they are the best team in their division. Because you look at what the Dolphins and the Bills have done this offseason, the subtractions they've had to make. The Jets right now, they are in prime position to take this division. And if Aaron Rodgers is healthy and this offensive line gives him protection, I think the Jets are going to have a good year. But it could all end in an instant. Because we saw Breece Hall take that handoff and go for 20-something yards, and you thought, wow, look at the Jets. And then a few plays later, Rodgers goes down, and there went the Jets. Despite winning that game. But even after winning that game, you were just like, you know what, any win we'll take, but they finished 7-10 again, and now we'll see what happens in 2024. Zach Wilson is still on this team, so he could see the field again. Hopefully not, because Jet fans will lose their minds if he is on the field again. But yeah, I mean, there's a look for me personally with Aaron Rodgers. Like I could see the stuff about him being a diva and being self-centered. Because, sometimes, like even back with the Packers, you see him shouting at receivers. And I know some people say, oh, Tom Brady would never do that. Tom Brady did do that. Look at Patrick Mahomes and what happened with him after Kadarius Toney lined up off sides. It looked like he wanted to fight the ref. And then how he was with Josh Allen. At the end, they picked up the audio on that, complaining to Josh Allen about the call. A lot of quarterbacks are like that. I mean, you see Peyton Manning, him yelling at Jeff Saturday. I mean, it's just that at least that one clip of him yelling at Jeff Saturday. You know what I'm talking about, back when they were with the Colts. I mean, I never really saw Eli Manning yell at anybody, but Eli was a different personality. But, you also saw Rodgers yelling at Matt LaFleur. You've seen that. But, I mean, I think there's a video of Tom Brady and I think Bill O'Brien getting into an argument. I think that was back against Washington, like, the early 2010s. It's just a lot of players are like that. Now, again, if you want to talk about some of the stuff that Aaron Rodgers has said off the field regarding certain things, that's a whole different thing, which we're not going to get into. That's for a different kind of show. But, which I think that's where all this comes from. But I remember, though, when Rodgers first started doing the McAfee stuff, people were loving it. Because for a long time, a lot of people didn't like Aaron Rodgers. Now, again, this is before, like, now. I think, again, whole different thing. But when Rodgers first started making appearances on the McAfee show, you look at a lot of the comments on the interviews, at least on YouTube, and people are like, wow, I never realized Rodgers was like this. I like him even more now that he's making these appearances. Because you only see what the media, like, well, Pat McAfee is the media, but a lot of you look at some things and people paint this bad image of Rodgers, but then he goes on the McAfee show and you actually hear what he's saying, again, him just talking football, and you're like, wow, like this is actually interesting, and people are saying that they liked Rodgers more. But things started to get a little wacky at times, So that's where things then kind of changed. And, yeah, it's just... But you know what? The reason why you hear about Aaron Rodgers all the time is because he makes news, makes headlines. And that's what makes the world go round. So... And I get it. Some of the things he said, yeah, you might have a little bit of make a weird look and say, what? What? He believes that? But again, that's a separate topic. So at the end of the day, my focus with Rodgers is on football, and I'm hoping he goes out there and he has a really good 2024 season. And I hope he goes out on somewhat of a high note and not like how 2023 went. And that's regardless of some of the things he may say that you may not like, and him being self-centered, him being a diva, all that. Somebody I watched growing up, and I, when he retires, again, that's just going to be another member of that core of quarterbacks that we saw play for most of our lives, if you're, in your 20s like me, that is going to be gone, and it's going to be sad. So, again, I hope he goes out there and has a good year, and I hope for my friends that are Jet fans, family that are Jet fans, coworkers, I hope he does well for them. I hope this take 2 is the right take, and he has a solid year for the Jets. So, and like I said, with what MVS is saying, again, 2 sides to every story. You're going to have teammates that are going to come out and speak very highly of Rodgers, and then you're going to have former teammates that are come out and say, yeah, didn't really get along with them. So, but let me know what you guys think about the whole Aaron Rodgers stuff that we discussed. But yeah, with that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to tune into our other shows throughout the day. Hear what they have to say about some of the other stuff that went on, whether it's baseball and basketball with the NCAA tournaments and the NBA. We're getting to the NBA playoffs. We're getting close. I think they start, next week. So a lot happening. So make sure to tune into everybody else's shows. And yeah, that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And with that being said, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.